Good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening, whenever it is you maybe happen to be watching this special Facebook Live session hosted by ARP North Carolina. I'm the director of ARP North Carolina, Mike Olander. Well, off to a great start already. Joined by two really very familiar but great guests. We have with us North Carolina's own Attorney General Josh Stein, and our Secretary of State, Elaine Marshall, both of whom AARP North Carolina has worked very closely with over the years on issues focused on fraud and protecting consumers from scammers that are out there. Every year, throughout the year, we're always sharing this information, but as we get close to the holidays and in the holidays, it's always really important for us to reconnect and to provide good information to you to understand what scams are out there, what to be looking out for, what are the types of things that raise red flags, and what to do about it should you find yourself faced with a fraud or the victim of fraud. And here in North Carolina, there is nobody better to speak to about those topics than our own two guests today. So a couple of quick things here. This is going to be a really short program. We'll be out of here in about 30 minutes. We guarantee it will be well worth your time because we're going to be providing a lot of very good North Carolina specific information. So be sure to have a pen and piece of paper handy to jot down numbers, email addresses, the names of scams, things like that, that will be helpful to you should you run into something during this holiday season. As we're in the holiday season, of course, for most of us, it's a time to celebrate. It's a time to be spending time with family, to be reflecting on what's important in life. Unfortunately, not everybody views the holidays that way. Many folks out there view it as an opportunity to take advantage of people through a number of scams. Everything from scams trying to get your personal information, your credit card information, to charity scams. And as we speak with Secretary Marshall and Attorney General Stein today, you're going to be learning about what to keep your eye out for and how to protect you and your family. ARP is a nonprofit, nonpartisan social mission organization. We work to help everybody, regardless of whether you're an ARP member or not, better protect yourself and arm yourself to prevent yourself from falling victim to being a victim of various types of scams that are out there. So let's go ahead and get right on into it. Attorney General Stein, thanks so much for being with us. You're concerned, when it comes to shopping safely this holiday season. I know this is a top concern for you and your team. Why is that? What can you tell us a bit about that?
Michael, thank you and AARP for putting this on, and thank all of you who are joining Secretary Marshall and me this morning, this afternoon, this evening, whenever you end up watching it. There are a lot of issues around shopping in the holiday season. The criminals know this is a time when a lot of money exchanges hands, so they try to get in there and grab it. And there are issues both around where you shop and how you shop. A lot of people are doing more purchases online than ever before. Make sure you're dealing with a legitimate retailer. Look at the top, the URL, and see that there's HTTPS and that there's a lock icon on there. Be very wary of clicking on a retailer link through social media because it's really easy for them to put pictures of merchandise up there that they don't actually possess and sell you something that they're never going to send you just to take your money. So that's where you shop online. How you shop online means how are you paying for it? We want to be really careful that you minimize the risks of financial harm to yourself. And there was an AARP survey that showed that the vast majority of people, around 70%, use their debit card to buy things online. And that is not advisable. Much better to use a credit card. And the reason is the debit card is connected to your bank account. And when you pay with your debit card, that money is drawn immediately from your funds. Whereas the credit card, you're using the money from the credit card bank. So if somebody commits fraud on you or they fail to deliver the product and you want to get relief with your credit card, all you have to do is notify them and it's on them. They bear the loss. If it's from your debit card, it's your bank account. And you may be able to get the money back, but it becomes much more onerous. You have to file your report, they have to do an investigation, and it could take up to 2 or 3 months for you to get your money back. So it is always better to use a credit card instead of a debit card when purchasing. And that actually applies whether you're buying things online or in person at a brick and mortar retail store.
That is really, really great advice. Thank you for that. One type of gift that's gotten very, very popular in recent years has been gift cards. And Attorney General, we do know that scammers do specifically look at that as an opportunity. What's the deal? What are gift card scams? What should consumers be looking out for?
Well, when you buy a gift card, it's a great gift to give somebody because it gives them the flexibility to choose what they want. It's always better when you get the gift card from behind the counter directly from the retailer, or going online somehow and getting it shipped from the retailer directly. Again, provided you know it's the legitimate company. The problem with getting them off the rack when you see them at the checkout counter where there's a whole list of them, there's actually technology that scammers can use to get the number. They scan the number, and they have machinery which tells them when you activate your card. And then once they have noticed that it's been activated, they can empty out the value of that gift card before it's ever used by you or whomever you are giving it to. So always better to get the gift card directly from the retailer rather than in a publicly accessible space.
Wow. One other thing about gift cards is that sometimes I know there are scams that are used where people actually ask you to purchase a gift card and then give the number to them. Can you tell folks a little bit about that? Because I know that's still pretty popular.
It's very popular. Here's the deal. It's a pretty simple rule. If you ever get a call from anyone asking for payment by means of a gift card, it is a scam. It's what criminals do to try to get money immediately in an untraceable fashion. What they will do to try to get you to give them the money is they'll pretend to be a government agency, let's say the Social Security Administration, and they'll claim that your account has been suspended because of some fraud on it or something like that, and that you have to pay a fee immediately in order to get your account reactivated. By the way, pay us using a gift card. I mean, it sounds ludicrous, but when you're distressed and scared that your account's been shut down, people will do things that later they regret. So just know that if they're asking for payment by a gift card, it is a scam. It is not how the Social Security Administration works. It is not how the IRS works. It is not how law enforcement works. If this happens to you, you can forward the communication or notify reportfraud.ftc.gov. Reportfraud.ftc.gov.
Great, thank you. And we can put that website and that email address up on the screen so folks can see. We'll also make sure it's linked on our Facebook page. Let's go to our Secretary of State, Elaine Marshall. We've worked very closely with you, Madam Secretary, on various education campaigns to raise awareness about various types of frauds, including charity frauds. And of course, that's really big this time of the year. Can you tell folks how big of a problem is charity fraud? How can folks tell a real charity from a fake charity?
Thank you, Mike, and thanks to AARP for bringing this valuable information to folks. This time of year, it's so appropriate because, as Attorney General Stein said, the criminals out there know that at this time of year, people are generous. People do make a lot of holiday year-end donations. And they kind of think that maybe somebody lets their guard down and that they're going to miss the signs of a scam. So they try to exploit that. So it is a big problem. Now, I want everyone to know who's able to give generously, but do a little homework up front so that you can avoid being scammed during the season of giving. So make sure that every dollar you donate is going to do the maximum good for the people that you intend to be benefited. I urge everyone who gets a cold call or an unsolicited text or message to not respond. Same thing as Attorney General was saying. If they're seeking those donations over the internet and they have reached out to you, please don't respond. Go ahead and do your own research. making your donation to a charity's official website after doing your internet search and making sure that it's legitimate and effective. Now, never click on any link in an unsolicited text, email, or social messaging. You might not find yourself being directed to fake charities, but you might put yourself at risk of malware or viruses or putting your other financial information at risk. That applies to any unsolicited text or email. Now, on our website, which is sosnc.gov, we have a smart donor checklist on the charities section of the website. This is a very handy list of suggested questions you should ask if you're solicited for a contribution, including how your contribution is going to be used and what percentage of your contribution is going to charity. I am a big proponent of giving to local charities. That way you can see the good works yourself. It's a great idea to volunteer some of your time. It helps the charity and it gives you a good look at what the charity operates. Now, last month, we released our charitable solicitation annual report. This is an outstanding resource for the giving public. It breaks down the percentage of each dollar donated to the charities that use professional fundraisers that went into these programs versus how much of that went to fundraising or administrative overhead cost. Please know this doesn't cover all charities because all are not required to file this report. There's really good news here. This year, overall giving increased 40% from last year, and that was great, but it was following a down year. The really, really good news is that we hit an all-time high with 81.79% of the donations actually going to the charitable programs. I am thrilled to be able to report that. So many outstanding and responsible charities are doing great work, but they're also racing to keep pace with the needs out there, and they do need our continued support. So it's never been more important to make sure that you're giving to real charities and not scams. And as Attorney General Stein said, look for that S up there at the HTT place in the heading. HTTPS means secure. So that's one of the things you really need to look for. If it doesn't have it up there, don't use that website. Search a little further. You can find the real legitimate one and then go ahead and give.
And is there a place where folks can report a suspected charity scam if they receive a solicitation?
Absolutely.
Or
Absolutely. Call our securities division 1-888. Let me start again. 1-888-830-4989, or visit us online at sosnc.gov and report it. Now, try to gather as much information as you possibly can, a screenshot, names of who you talked to, what number it came from, if it was telephone. Please give us information to work on, and we'll go from there.
Great. One of the things that I've learned during my 15 plus years at AARP working on fraud issues is the importance of people really being active consumers, not only with what they are observing, but also reporting it in and realizing that they play a really critical role, as you mentioned, Secretary Marshall, of alerting authorities as to what the types of scams are out there. What types of things are we hearing right now, or is it a little too early to tell during this holiday season? Prevalent scams, whether they be charity scams or other types of things that are happening here in North Carolina that you'd like to highlight?
Well, always scams involving children this time of year, homeless, veterans. We're seeing increasingly sound alike for veteran organizations. But there are people that try to mimic some traditional American Cancer Society and those kinds of things. So be very careful and look for that S up there. And if something internationally strikes your heart, please try to find an organization here. This is particularly true with disaster relief that does that. Methodist men, Baptist men, Mennonite men, Samaritan's Purse, organizations that have actual North Carolina folks that have an effective track record in delivering, say, emergency services following whatever the natural disaster might be. So give it to somebody that you know has the right mentality, has the effectiveness because they've done it before. There are a lot of people out there that claim to be wanting to do things, but do they really have the capacity to do it? not all organizations have the capacity to respond to great disasters.
Mm-hmm. And Mr. Attorney General, on your end, things that you and your team are hearing regarding current scams that are out there that you want to highlight?
It's all about tugging at your heartstrings. There will be people who put GoFundMe campaigns on social media, making something that's very heartrending, but it's just about lining their own pocket. And so, like what Secretary Marshall says, when you want to give to an organization or give to a cause, find an organization that you know is legitimate, do a little research, and then you can at least be confident that the money you go to is going to help people instead of make some criminal richer.
Very good information. I got a email from my mom the other day saying she was sending some presents down for me and the kids for Christmas. And she had said, should I send them to your work address, or is it safe to send it to your home where they might be sitting out on the porch? Now, I live in a very safe area, and items being stolen off of stoops has not been a problem for me. But I know that is a bigger issue, seeing lots of social media videos of people getting caught in the act and all sorts of things. What advice could either of you give to folks when it comes to that problem and avoiding having your presents or other parcels stolen from your doorstep?
We call that either porch piracy, porch pirates, or porch poachers. And they just drive up and down neighborhoods and see packages on the front porch and go up there and take them. So if you know you're going to get a package delivered to you and you're not going to be home, either find a shipper who has a nearby location who can keep it for you, have some secure location on your own property. You can get it delivered to a UPS or Amazon drop box, or try to get home and keep it on the porch for as short a period of time as possible. And then the final idea is, if you have a trusted neighbor, you could ask them to swing by and pick it up for you.
It's also not a bad idea to have it delivered to work, because somebody there is going to be trusted to take it in, and, it's in your possession then at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Good idea.
And Mr. Attorney General, as the chief law enforcement officer in our state, I have to ask, what advice do you have to give to somebody should they catch somebody in the act, like literally open the door and someone's trying to steal something off of their porch? What advice, what should people do versus not do in terms of taking the law into their own hands, or otherwise just responding to that situation in that moment?
Well, definitely your personal safety is the most important thing at all times. And if it's a package and you've paid with a credit card and it's stolen, you can get that money back. So do not put yourself at risk trying to intervene at that moment. Call 911 immediately to report the crime, because there may have been other similar reports and they may have an idea of who it was. And if you're able to take a picture of the car's driver license plate, do that. But the most important thing is don't put yourself at risk.
Wow. Well, thank you very much for that. I know I've seen some of these videos where people set booby traps and things like that. And while admittedly it's pretty fun to watch some of these things, thinking, wow, if somebody gets hurt, you could have a situation of some liability there. So that's good for folks to know. I just got a question here handed to me regarding pet scams. Could either of you speak about that? Because I know during the holidays, you see lots of things with animals, whether they be cards or other types of communications. Can either of you talk a little bit about that? What is it and what folks need to be looking out for?
I'm happy to, Elaine, if you'd like me to take it.
Pets are not my thing. So, I love pets, but we don't have any jurisdiction with pets. So go ahead, please.
It's a consumer transaction, so we're happy to talk about it. First, don't get ripped off. If you're trying to buy a specific breed, do some research and find out what the going cost is of a particular breed. Pets are like anything else. There'll be some retailers who are unethical who will say the price is 10 times what it is, and I'm going to give you a 50% discount, but that's 5 times more than what it should cost if you had just done your homework. The second is, it's like anything on the internet. you do not necessarily know who you're dealing with. And they could put the most adorable photo of a dog. Let's say you want a husky. They will find the cutest husky pet picture on the internet and say that that's the dog you're buying. So there's actually a technology you can use called reverse image searches. And all you have to do is Google how to do a reverse image search of the picture, and it will show you whether this is something that's being advertised on multiple pet websites. And then you will absolutely know you're dealing with a scammer. And so that's one reason why we suggest the third tip is shop local, because if you are local, you can see what their breeding facility is like. You can see, is this a place where the dog was actually cared for? Is this a legitimate business concern? Or if you, a big telltale sign is if you're trying to buy a pet and it's somebody local, and instead of going to the facility, they say, I will meet you in a shopping center parking lot with the dog. That is a huge telltale sign that you're not dealing with somebody legitimate. And then the last thing I'll just put out there as a consideration is go to the shelter. I mean, there's so many dogs that are available who want and need to be adopted. We have 2 dogs currently, and they're both rescue dogs. In fact, every dog we've ever had as a rescue dog, and they give as good, if not better, love than a breed dog.
Thank you very much for that. One other question I want to ask, as we're thinking about shopping, and folks are always looking to save a few bucks here and there, is using Facebook Marketplace, where you are purchasing items from individuals, not from businesses. And there are safety concerns there, and also the ability to be scammed as well. Could either of you speak to that?
Yeah, it's a real risk. When it's the same thing about a GoFundMe campaign. When you're dealing with somebody who's on their own, you don't know if they're legitimate or not. So if they have something that you really want, try to get some customer reviews, make sure that they have a track record of following through on the transaction or the promises they're making. If you want to be absolutely safe, deal with some company you already know, a name brand or a store that exists in your neighborhood, and you're less likely to be disappointed. And I'm sure Secretary Marshall can talk about some of these charities that sound great, but they're just out there to steal your money.
And I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say that's absolutely true. And wearing my trademark hat, we see a lot of counterfeit items. People are looking for that just perfect item or that hard to find toy, and lo and behold, they find something online. Again, all of the risks that we've talked about. And I think now that inflation has really affected people, they're going to be doing more online searching. You've got to look for that S up there, just like we talked about, HTTPS for secure, if you're going to be buying something. If you're looking for warranties and guarantees, you've got to be dealing with the manufacturer or a manufacturer's rep. So they're even sometimes some of these entities will put it up there as a fake. They'll put it up there as a replica. That does not protect them from violating the law. We are seeing some items that always have been health and safety concerns, whether it's the manufacturing process, whether it's shards and sharp corners. Toys in particular here in America to be sold here, they go through extensive safety examinations and requirements. And those that are made who knows where, being sold from who knows where by who knows who, you don't have that. So again, be very, very careful who you're buying from. And for some of these, you may not receive the product. You have already given them your credit card information to some bad actors. And that's just a downhill story. It's very sad, but there's not very much law enforcement can do if you're dealing with somebody offshore. So I recommend to people to shop local. That's very good for your local communities. You can touch your toys or your garment, whatever it is, and you can see the quality or lack thereof. But it's going to be a tough time to find some of those ideal toys with shipping and supply chain issues. But if you can find them locally, everybody in the world would appreciate that, because we got to support our local merchants. So if you do buy something, as we mentioned before, pay for it with a credit card where you can do some follow-up if it's inferior. Debit card is just a no-no because they're automatically into your bank account. So there's a lot of risk involved with just searching and searching and searching until you find something out of frustration. But again, look for that secure site. And then if you do decide to buy, do it with a credit card.
Secretary Marshall, unfortunately, one of the things that's a year-round concern for people is being taken advantage of by family members. I know you one of the things that your team looks at is advanced care directives and the importance of having a power of attorney that can help prevent fraud from family members. Can you say a few words about that, just because it's good general advice that people should be aware of year-round?
Well, again, please go to sosnc.gov and look at advanced directives. There are actually 4 of them up there. One is a healthcare power of attorney. One is an organ donor designation. One is a mental health power of attorney. And the other is what's known as the living will document. It's a good time when families together for folks to talk about what their wishes may be with regard to some of these while people are in good shape and have of good mental faculty. For folks to let others in their family know what their desires would be in the case of a serious medical emergency. We also do find overreaching within families. There are some other aspects that have been put in place by my office. We have trained medical professionals to know where to go if they find that a senior citizen is all of a sudden worried about money when they never were worried about it before. Or they're talking about some kind of exotic business deal that they seem not to know what it is or can explain it. We've established a new, and those people were encouraging them to report to Adult Protective Services. There also is a new system called HelpVul, HELPVUL, which is a reporting platform for banks and other financial people when they find suspicious out of the norm activity by a senior citizen, for them to report to Adult Protective Services to do a follow-up on that. Unfortunately, people know that seniors have money, seniors have a stream of money, and please don't say, I don't have that much money, nobody's going to bother me. That is absolutely the wrong attitude because they're looking for people like you. We want you to have your guard up, not down, and open communication with your family. Multiple members is always a good idea about your wishes and documenting your wishes. They can be put on file with us at a small charge, and hospitals know to look for them because if you're in a serious emergency situation, you're not going to be dealing with your local doctor. It's fine to give your directives to your local doctor, but you're going to be at a place with a doctor and a team of doctors that you maybe never knew their name, never heard of them. And they're going to be the ones that are going to be dealing with your family and you in particular when you can't speak up. So it's real important to talk those things through and get your wishes documented so that they will be carried out.
Great. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate us ending on that note. I want to thank you, Secretary Marshall and Attorney General Stein, for being with us to talk about fraud. It's a year-round problem, but of course, throughout, as we get into the holidays here, unfortunately, certain types of things crank up, and we want to make sure that folks are aware of what to look out for and what to do about it. Thank you all so much for being with us. For those of you who are in the Raleigh area, tuning in to WPTF, Attorney General Josh Stein is going to be my guest this coming Sunday at 1 p.m. to talk a little bit more about fraud and scams here in North Carolina. We look forward to speaking with you then. And we also will have that program available on demand as a podcast too, and we will have it right on our Facebook, ARP North Carolina. So on behalf, Attorney General.
Yeah, I want to promote our phone number. If people out there have questions where they're just confused and they don't know if something's legit or not, we have a toll-free number, 877-5-NO-SCAM, 877-5-NO-SCAM. Or if you run into trouble with a business, ncdoj.gov/complaint. Thanks, Michael.
And please don't obsess if you have a scam and if you don't know if it belongs to Josh's shop or my shop. I say there's no wrong door. We transfer cases back and forth and references. So people should not fret over that.
Well, on behalf of ARP North Carolina and our 1.1 million members here in the state, I salute both of you for your commitment to helping protect North Carolina consumers, not only during the holidays, but of course year round. We really appreciate all that you do day in and day out. So thank you for being with us once again. Thank those of you who have been watching for doing so. Check back all the time, ARP North Carolina, for our continuous programming to help protect you and your family from scams, as well as other information to help you and your family age in the best way possible here in North Carolina. Thank you all. Happy holidays.
Thank you, Michael.
Happy holidays.